Shalom family. This video is going to be the first of many in the Woman Thou Art Bound series. I'm going to be talking about a number of different issues that we as women have to go through and deal with. Some of my own issues and some of those that have reached out to me in the form of messages, some of you that I've talked to. I'm going to discuss some of these issues and hopefully help bring about some solutions or some help or give you some guidance as best as I can. First and foremost, I would like to say that what we do individually is going to be the best thing that we can do for ourselves in terms of getting us to a place, a workable place, to where we can move beyond or get over or move past some of the things that we go through. As women, it's kind of hard to articulate to people at times what we feel on the inside. You have those that understand, and then you have those who try to make it seem as though we're making too much out of nothing. I will say this, that each and every one of us are different, and every last one of us deal with situations differently, okay? The topic of this particular video, I want to start from the very beginning. I want to say that if you are operating from a position of hurt, then you can actually do more harm than good in your life if you're always constantly operating from a position of hurt. Because what that does is every relationship that you have, whether it's with a spouse, whether it's family members, co-workers, your children, if you're always operating from a position of hurt, that's going to be reflected in how you deal with other people. And hopefully that is self-explanatory. If not, I'm going to bring some clarity to what I mean. One of the main things that I can give an example for would be relationships that you have with a spouse or with a fiance or someone that you're engaged to or you're going to be married to soon. I've heard many testimonies where a man would complain about a woman bringing baggage from another relationship into her present relationship. And what that does is sometimes it creates friction in your present relationship when you're dwelling on something that happened in the past. Now, there was a video that I shared on the Woman Thou Art Bound page on Facebook where it was a divorce court episode. It's an old episode, but it pretty much still just leaves the mind in awe when you look at this particular episode. And so I wanted to weigh in on that, where there was a woman who was married to a man and she wanted to divorce him because she said he was too nice, okay? And he was so nice that she said it was scary. Scary nice is what she said. And so she went on with her explanation to say that whenever he would do nice things for her, she was always waiting for the punch, as if he was going to hit her or something like that. Now, that's what I mean. Operating in a position of hurt can ruin or damage something, can ruin or damage a relationship, whether it's with a new husband or a spouse or fiance, even your own children. Sometimes there are situations where women will have a child with a man and the relationship with that man goes bad or goes south, and they will look at the child that came from that relationship with detest, okay? I'm not understanding that, but I'm not here at this moment to look down on a person in that situation because I don't know what the situation was. But what I will say is that if you're operating from a position of hurt, that you're hurting that child now, in which the child doesn't deserve that. And so what you're doing is creating more damage in someone else's life from damage that you've incurred in your life. And so we can't afford to operate from a position of hurt when we are dealing with relationships, okay? Regardless of what the relationship is. It could even be a job relationship. You can't operate from a position of hurt if you've been mistreated on a former job and you come to this new job with attitudes from the previous job. You see what I'm saying? And so we cannot afford to operate from a position of hurt in anything that we do, because we can actually do more harm than good, not only to ourselves, but to others around us. And you do it to yourself because you may be inadvertently damaging possibly good relationships because you're operating from that position. As women, we have to be very careful how we allow past things to interfere with present life. I have a good friend of mine who's a psychologist. She had said one time that when a woman is hurting and she has children, what happens is sometimes she is in survival mode herself. And so with her being in survival mode, she tends to turn off the needs of those children because she herself is trying to survive. Now, we don't have that option. Once you become a mother, you lose the option of turning off motherhood. Okay? And so what we do see happening, a lot of people are turning off motherhood. They're shoving the children off to the side. Some of you may have seen the excerpt from White It Out Part 5, The Curse of Generational Curses, where we have the segment called Children by the Wayside. And what happens is, as those children grow, they begin to know and understand that they are not loved. Okay? Now, you can say that you love them with your mouth, but they are going to look at your actions. They're going to look at how you are dealing with them as a parent. And as they grow, they're going to know, and they're going to grow with that rejection and that separation that you give them by blocking your heart, your feelings, and your emotions and love from them. Children know when they're loved and when they're not. And so what you're going to have is another generation that's being raised, in many cases, to repeat the pattern. And so it creates more dysfunction in our future. And so there is a job that we as women have, okay? And I know it's tough. I'm not saying that it's not tough. Like I said, in this series, I'm going to talk about some of my hurts, and I'm going to talk about some things that have been shared with me, of course on a generic basis, but so many stories are mirrored. So many women are going through the same things, the same feelings, the same hurts, the same emotions. And my goal is to help you move past those things and gain strength. I will say this. The thing about the strong black woman is true, whether people want to believe it or not. When you have had to endure the things that black women have had to endure on this earth for as long as we have endured it, you have to be strong. Now, when I say strong, I'm not talking about this don't need a man type stuff. I'm not talking about all of that wiggle your neck, walk with your neck stretch forth and your feet tinkling. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the ability to rise above hurt, pain, disappointment. That's what I'm referring to. And many of us have had to do that. And we have had to carry on when we have been dealt blows so heavy that some people would crush under the pressure. Okay? I already know. I've seen and I've heard and I've had my own situations. Women who have gone through some very tough things, and to deny the fact that they are strong is ridiculous. Okay? Now, when I say they are strong, I'm not saying that they don't cry, because sometimes it's the tears that gets you through those moments where you have been crushed. It is the tears that help you to move past those things. Now, I don't want anyone to be under any illusions. This series is not going to be about bashing men, okay? This series is going to be about us getting ourselves together, okay? And what we must do as women, okay? There's enough blame to go around as to the condition of the so-called black family. There is enough blame to go around. We talk about a number of issues in the book, Woman, Thou Art Bound, okay? It has nothing to do with the T.D. Jakes book, Woman, Thou Art Loosed, okay? I don't know what his book is about, only segments of it, and from looking at the movie that a lot of women felt like there were things they wanted to achieve in life, but there were elements that were keeping them from these things, okay? Even throughout the Christian church, before we came into the truth of who we are as a people, there was always this male dominance thing where the Most High don't deal with women. He don't speak to women. He don't talk to women. Women have no place in the kingdom but under the foot of men. Okay? There was always that women are to keep silent, this, that, and the other. And there was no real clarity or understanding brought to those passages. So we deal with a lot of those things. We deal with a lot of the current events of the separation of the black family, what has happened, what the solutions are, what we plan to do about it as a people. Individually, we all have to make up our minds what we want to do about this as a people. Either we all just give up, throw in the towel, and just lay down and die, or we figure this thing out. Because if we don't figure out how to work together as a people, we will be wiped out. Okay? There is no us if there's no togetherness with the so-called black man and woman. Anything else that's formed outside of the so-called black man and woman is not us. You see? And some of you ain't gonna get that. Some of you are not going to get that. But if you are meshing with other nations or other groups and thinking that they're still in us, then you are actually deceived if you're thinking that you're going to carry on the lineage of our people by meshing with other people. Okay? So we're going to talk about how we can get out of that position of hurt, because guess what? We have no choice. We have no choice but to move past that position of hurt, because if you wallow there too long, you may get stuck in a muck, stuck in a rut, stuck in a pit, you see, stuck in a trap, stuck in a snare. You don't want to stay there too long. And I know it's easier said than done for some of us, okay? If you've ever been in a situation to where you've been hurt so bad to where you don't even know if you can wake up the next day, if you can function the next day. I've been there before. I'm sure many of us can share stories that just talking about them would rehash those tears over and over again, okay? But there comes a time to where you have to wipe away those tears and just encourage yourself, okay? And then we as sisters, we as women of the Most High, we also have to encourage one another. We have to put aside all this petty competition that I see so frequently amongst so-called black women. There's this thing, it's this bitterness that many of us have in our hearts against our sisters for no reason at all. You may look at another sister and what she wears, how she looks, if she's light-skinned, if she's dark-skinned, if her hair is long, if it's short, if she's shaped a certain way, if she has a certain thing, if she has achieved certain things. So many different reasons and excuses we will find to create hate in our heart or contentions in our heart for one another. And we don't understand while we're doing that, while we're preparing reasons why we want to be at odds with our sister, other people are moving right along, getting right along with their lives. I'm not saying that these things don't happen in other groups and other races, but these people don't allow it to slow them down. But we as a people, sometimes we can get so consumed in these things to where you actually get sick. I've seen people get sick, physically sick, because they have so much animosity against another person for no reason at all. I shared a story once before about my oldest sister, how when she was over a particular real estate group in Detroit, Michigan, she was very successful at what she was doing. She was achieving a lot of things. She had a lot of people joining the group. She was getting support from a lot of the businesses, banks and things were sponsoring programs that she had, and she was really doing an excellent job. And one of the people who actually appointed her or voted her into the position that she was in was an older woman, old enough to be her mother, you see. And after she looked at my sister for a while, she began to conjure up this root of bitterness. As she looked at my sister with her progress, she began to conjure up this root of bitterness to where it got to her so bad one day. She looked at my sister and said, "I hope you die." And that hurt my sister so bad because she looked up to this woman. And it kind of like took everyone else by storm too. Like, wow, that's deep. Is that deep for you, huh? To where you want this person to be 6 feet under. That root of bitterness has gotten that deep and heavy in your heart that you want someone to die because you can't stand their progress. What kind of foolishness is that? Those are the things that our people are plagued with. And it's the enemy who has put that in us to be this way towards each other, instead of embracing each other in love and looking at your sister and saying, I am proud of her, I love her, and I'm happy for her accomplishments. You are looking at her in hate, and you might try to find whatever it is you can find, whatever reason you can conjure up to justify what you're feeling in your heart. Now, this particular woman, not long afterward, my sister told me that she took ill. Now, mind you, she was already older. So you being an older woman, why would you go there, right? She took ill after that. After feeling this way and having this bitterness in her heart against my sister, she took ill. She's the one who took ill. So the Most High don't like those things. He don't like those kind of things. So I'm encouraging you sisters, first, to examine yourself. The scripture says, let a man examine himself, right? And I'm saying to you, let us women examine ourselves. We want to make sure that we are in right standing with the Father. In our households, we want to make sure that we are in right standing in our households. If you have a husband that's an authority over you, you want to make sure that you are in right standing in your household as your husband's helpmate, okay? You also want to make sure that you're in right standing with how you are raising your children. Do you allow your children to do things that you know is against the Father's will? Many of us, our children get older, they become teenagers or whatever, and they're still living in our house, and we allow them to do things that we know we shouldn't allow them to do. And the Most High is going to hold us accountable for that. Of course, you can't control them once they're out of your house, okay? But that doesn't mean you justify anything they do. If you have a child that's doing something they are not supposed to do as their parent, even if they don't live in your house, you can still tear into them, okay? You can still tear into them. I have an older daughter who's already grown out on her own, and I still tear into her. I love my children, and I'm going to tell them how I feel as their mother if they do something they ain't supposed to be doing. You see, that is our job. Now, whether they hear or whether they will forbear is up to them. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yah. Any child that lives in this house that me and my husband are over, any child who feels that they no longer have to abide by the rules in this house, they can get to stepping. You see, that is what the Most High says that we are supposed to do. He says, a wise woman builds her house, but a foolish woman plucketh it down with her hands. Don't allow your children to have the run of the house or to run amok. You lay down rules that you've established, and you make sure they abide by those rules. You see, now when they get out on their own, like I said, you can still tell them how you feel about things. You can't control what they do, but you can definitely not support their doings if they're not doing according to what they're supposed to do. You can still reprimand them. I told my children, I don't care how old you get, I'm still your mama, okay? And my husband is still your papa. And if you're doing something, we're going to speak our piece on it. And so that is what we must do. We as women, we have got to figure out our place. And if you want to know what that place is, you have to get in the book, okay? Now, I do realize that some people are going to look at this and they are not in the book. They don't serve the Most High. They don't believe in all of that, okay? But the truth still stands. The truth still stands in all of that. I get many of you who say just that. You enjoy watching the videos, but you don't read the Bible. You don't believe in all of that. You don't serve no God and all of that. I do realize that. This is mostly for my sisters who do understand that we do have a relationship with our Father. I'm not going to deny that because we have viewers who don't believe. What I would do is encourage you to rethink that and get an understanding on what it is you're rejecting. Yes, the so-called white man has tainted much of what we read in the Bible, but if you get understanding and understand that that is our ancient book, then you will probably see things differently. If you begin to research history and see that much of history has been whitewashed. I do understand that many of you feel some kind of way about that because I do too. But when you start to pray, when you start to research, when you start to study history, we study history and we understand that many of our cultures have been taken over by a people who were not on this earth as long as we've been on this earth. You see, much of our ancient text has been taken over, rewritten, translated improperly, or given a slant towards a culture that's not true to what the original meaning was. So what the Most High is doing, he is setting the record straight. He's setting the record straight, and we are reclaiming our heritage, okay? It is our heritage, and we are reclaiming it. And with that comes responsibility, knowing what we as the daughters of Zion are to do. We are in the fight of our lives, and it involves our men. Our men need us, okay? Now, I know that there's a war going on between us. There's a lot of hatred between the so-called black man and woman. A lot of hatred. And we're going to dive into some of the historical elements that brought us to this place. We're going to talk about all of those things in this series and hopefully iron out some of this stuff. And hopefully there can be some repentance on both sides, because right now the enemy is laughing and pointing and snickering at us. He's got us right where he wants us. He wants us divided. He wants the black man to hate and despise the black woman, and he wants the black woman to return the favor. We gotta, I'm sorry, we cannot go out like that. That will literally demolish us as a people if we continue on this present course. And again, we're going to talk more about these things. I'm going to close this video out. We can no longer afford to operate from a position of hurt, because we will do more harm than good in our own lives, in our relationships with our husbands, with our fiancés if you're about to get married, and any future relationship that you may get in, your relationship with your children, your other family members, your community, your co-workers, your bosses. If you're always operating from a position of hurt, it is definitely going to show up in your life and cause more damage than good. I hope that this video, this first video in the Woman Thou Art Bound series, will help someone. I do welcome any questions. I've already received a number of questions and video requests. Many of them involve sisters who are already involved in marriage situations. We've already done an extensive marriage series, but I may address some things by video myself outside of the marriage series, because I'm going to be talking from myself to the sisters. I think it's very important that we begin to chop through some of these layers of contention that we have in our family, some of these layers of dysfunction. In order to resolve some of this, we're going to have to get to the root of the problem. We're going to have to get to the center of this. So we'll have to chop through a lot of this damage just to see if we can find our solutions. We're going to have to do some backtracking to see where the problem started, and from there we're going to have to work our way to the front of the line to see what we can do to fix things. Our present course isn't working. We already know that there are a lot of videos out there where a lot of brothers have expressed how much they hate the so-called black woman. I'm going to say this, and many of the brothers may be angry at this, but a lot of our brothers have been bewitched and they don't realize it. There is a demonic presence in their lives that is causing them to have this extreme hatred and bitterness towards the so-called black woman. And so what they're doing is they're finding every reason they can conjure up to basically paint every last one of us with one big brush and make it appear as though all of us are this way. Many times when you see these videos, there is no separation between their mother, their sister, the women of their own family, the street girls, the twerking girls, the whorish girls, the church girls, the business women, the professional women, the mothers of the church, the wholesome women. There's no separation made. Everyone is being lumped into one category. And that's not right, brothers. That is not right. I saw something that took place on one of my videos, and right away as I looked at the dialogue, it was like the Most High revealed to me what was going on there. There was a young man who commented, and his first comment was, "You black BITCHs are going to be killed. The Most High is going to slaughter you black so-and-sos. And I'm like, wow, oh my goodness. He just lit in right away with a comment such as that. And he says, and all of you black so-and-sos that are coming against the Latino women and the Latino tribes, the Most High gonna kill y'all so-and-sos. And I was just floored by the comment, because that particular video had nothing to do with that. And so another sister who had already been on that particular thread, she was an older sister, she chimed in, and I noticed what took place when this sister chimed in. She chimed in and she said something very wise. She didn't go off on the brother. She basically said, well, brother, I'm not what you say. I'm not a bitch. I'm not this, that, and the other. I love my people. And she just kind of had a very nice way that she dealt with this brother in his violent talk. And then, as I watched the dialogue continue between the two, he said a few more things that were still kind of like harsh. But then as the sister said more things to him, the brother kind of calmed down a bit, and he said, I'm sorry for calling you a bitch, sister. And it's just that such and such, such and such. I just want our people to get themselves together and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. And I do think that black men and black women should be together. I don't think we should marry these other nations and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. Now, what I witnessed there was the wisdom of that sister who was able to calm down the demonic activity in that brother. You see, because right away his first line of attack was boom. You black so-and-sos, you black women, you black bees are going to be slaughtered. Now he took it from there to I'm sorry for calling you a bitch. So that confirmed for me that a lot of our brothers have demonic influences that they are dealing with. Not saying that they're filled with demons, although some of them are. Some of them are. But some of them are being influenced by demons, and they're trying to figure out what to do with that activity. And when you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the Holy Spirit for some of you who don't know, when you don't have the Holy Spirit, you give in or you yield to that fleshly desire to lash out at things that you don't understand. Okay, so we have to pray for our brothers. I've heard of two other brothers that we had talked with that were into so-called Gentile women. As a matter of fact, it was three. One brother said that the Most High actually gave him 4 dreams. He was married to a Gentile woman. He said he dreamed, the Most High gave him 4 dreams that he was going to kill him if he didn't sever ties with that Gentile woman. And he took heed and is now married to an Israelite woman. Okay, that was one. Now, the others were men who were basically kind of admitted that they were under a spell. They were like, I don't know what came over me, why I was just so into this like that, to where I just wasn't thinking straight. You see, so that kind of confirms too that there is a spell, there is some witchcraft that is going on. There is some devilment that's going on that is trying to separate us from each other. And we as the daughters of Zion, we need to get into the Word. In particularly, we need to read Jeremiah, the 9th chapter, where it talks about calling for the mourning women. We have to pray, sisters. We got to lament and cry out before the Father. We have to pray for our brothers, our men, our sons, because there is something demonic that is pulling and tugging on them. And those of you who don't know how to pray, I want to do a series that's going to involve that as well. Okay, in the Woman Thou Art Bound series, I want our sisters to understand how important it is that we learn how to pray and to cry out. Now get this, many of us are already crying. Whether you're going through a relationship issue, you're crying. Whether you're going through issues with your children, you're crying. Whether you're having financial issues, you're crying. It is within those moments that you can use that time and those tears to cry out to the Father for help, for instructions, for clarity, for deliverance. It is with those moments of tears that we can cash in on those tears and say, Father, look, I don't know how to pray, but teach me how to pray. Because I'm telling you, in a dark hour that we're living in, many of you don't see what is before us. So many of us are ignoring the handwriting on the wall. And I'm going to say this and I'm going to close this out. We can no longer ignore the handwriting on the wall. There is some crushing blows that is headed to the world economy. And we, as the daughters of Zion, we got to do what we used to do, which is pray. Cry out. We have to do what the Most High has commissioned us to do. And He will begin to speak to our minds, speak to our hearts, and speak to our souls. And we can make a breakthrough for our families, for our men, for our children, especially our sons that are out here dying on the streets, and especially our daughters who are going to grow up and have to face some of the same things that you are facing if you don't prepare them. So with that, sisters, I'm going to say I love you. And shalom. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I hope this has been a blessing to you.